Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing how to get my long-term relationship back. I provide audio coaching to help people try and get their ex back or get a new girlfriend or boyfriend. Check out my website for more details. www.dateme.tips. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing how to get my long-term relationship back. So if you've been in a relationship for more than a year, it might shock you to the core if this connection ends. The longer your relationship was, the more you assume it will last forever. In today's podcast, I give 3 pieces of advice regarding how to try to get your long-term relationship back. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is you've already sowed the seeds to get them back. Now, of course, there is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, but if you were in a long-term relationship, you have already sowed the seeds to potentially get them back in the future. And what I mean by this is the seeds you have sown are the memories you have shared. The memories you share with somebody who is your long-term partner are going to far exceed those memories shared by people who are in very short-term connections. So if we are to consider a relationship of at least a year, but more so, really what we're focusing on is the long term, 3, 5, 7, 15, 30-year relationships. The longer your relationship, the more memories you have built together, you've shared together, you've experienced together, the more places you have been, the more times you have shared, and ultimately this generates potential triggers. Now, if you've been in a relationship for more than a year, every single day on the calendar has been one that you were together, and therefore any potential day on the calendar could be the trigger that makes your ex think of you. So let's think of the obvious ones, things such as New Year, things such as Christmas, things such as birthdays. Those days on the calendar are very likely to be important days of a calendar for many, many millions of people around the world. You are also going to have your own specific, unique days for you and your former partner. These days are likely to make them think of you and you think of them. Let's use New Year's Eve as an example. When we get to New Year's Eve, we naturally think back to prior New Year's Eves, especially the one which had just gone. You think, what did I do last New Year's Eve? I was with my ex. Okay, that is an example of where a trigger can come into play. But if you've spent 10 New Year's Eves with your ex, it's going to be even more powerful. And that's just one day, that's one example. That is one seed that was sown by you without you even realizing you were doing it. Because the more memories you share, the more experiences you have together, the more days on the calendar which could create triggers just because of the day of the year that it is, the more opportunity your ex has to naturally think of you and wonder about you and quite possibly grow that extra bit of romantic emotional attraction they need before they will reach out to you. Now, there are more triggers than just days on the calendar. As I suggested, the places you have been together, the experiences you have shared, those will be triggers as well. Let's just say you went to various different locations in and around where you live, where they're all going to be triggers. Let's just say you went on holidays and vacations together. They are going to be triggers as well. And these are just for places. What about the meals that you ate? I'm not talking about the generalized food, but what about if you had a special meal and perhaps a year or two later your ex happens to have that meal once again and they then think of you? The movies that you watched, and I'm not talking about general ones you shared in your home, but perhaps you went to the theatre, the cinema. Those types of movies are more likely to create triggers if and when your ex sees them. Most people have heard about songs being great triggers. This was our song. Well, guess what? When your ex hears that, they're going to think about you. The longer you are together, the more possibility there is for triggers to arise at a more consistent and constant ratio, okay? So if you want to get your ex back, you need them to grow romantic emotional attraction and wonder for you, and you then need them to be thinking of you. And if and when they do, they may just reach out, and they're going to be thinking of you because of these memories, because of these triggers. So when we're thinking about trying to get a long-term relationship back, the good news is you've already sowed the seeds to try to get them back, because everything you did together is going to help you towards the possibility of one day hearing from them again. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast about how to get my long-term relationship back. And point number 2 is understand your position for how to proceed. So dependent on whether you are the dumper or the dumpee, dependent on whether you work together, dependent on whether you have children together. These are different examples of the different positions you could be and the different ways you need to proceed. You've probably heard me suggest that if you've been dumped, you should never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. That is generalized advice. It's not actually the specifics, but it is a huge chunk of my version of the no contact rule. But this is if you're the dumpee. If you are the dumper, then my version of the no contact rule looks different. If you are somebody who has a child with your ex, you don't want to be using my generalized version of a no contact rule. You want to be using my version of limited contact, similarly to if you work with your former partner. Now, if you've been in a long-term relationship with them, there is an increased chance you have children together, an increased chance you may work together or share a social circle together. These unique positions have unique situations that you need to tackle, and you need to know how to proceed. Now, I've got hundreds of podcasts here on my YouTube channel, so please subscribe to my YouTube channel, ring the bell for notifications, and check out all of the content on there that you believe could help you. But if you want specific, unique advice where me and you speak one-on-one about your unique situation, you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you speak one-on-one. I don't just become your coach, I become your teammate, and we take this journey together. If you want to do this, if you want to be a part of the journey moving forward with me by your side, then you want to check out my website, www.dateme.tips, and check out all of the information on there about how to get audio coaching with me, where me and you will speak one-on-one and we will take this journey together. You won't be alone on it. And whether or not you get your ex back, I'm confident I can help you through breakup recovery, moving forward to a much happier future. But when we consider the different positions, when we have to understand where we are at, you must realise that it's not a one-size-fits-all. Like I said, I have generalised content here on my YouTube channel, but you will have to look for the specific podcasts, or as I said, speak with me one-on-one via audio coaching to really understand where you are at. Because if you behave in a certain way which is inappropriate for your position, it's not likely to increase your chances of success. And if you have been in a long-term relationship with your former partner, there are many, many versions and possibilities of where you could be at. The longer you are together, the more permutations you may say that there could be. So make sure you understand where you're at. Make sure you understand who you are in this connection, who your ex is, and what other factors there are which could influence how you need to proceed. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about how to get my long-term relationship back. And point number 3 is grow and re-energize. Now, if you were in a long-term relationship with your former partner, it's very possible that you stagnated. The longer we are with somebody, the more likely it is we will take our eye off the ball, our eye off the prize, our eye off the goal, and we start to be somebody who, instead of pushes forward, we start to stagnate. Unfortunately, complacency can creep in on all of us. Even if you think you're going to be very wary of complacency, it's quite possible in a long-term connection, you could become complacent in one or many areas. So what I would suggest to increase your chance of getting your ex back within this situation is to really focus on the growth and re-energizing yourself. This could be in a whole manner of ways. The longer you are together, the older you will likely be, and that can also present new and different challenges, including staying in good physical condition. When we're younger, it seems like we can get away with a little bit more. Now, I'm not saying if you're younger, you can behave in a way which is really bad for your body, but what I am saying is sometimes you see people in their early 20s, they're living quite a negative lifestyle in how they treat their body, but they actually still look quite good. But unfortunately, it will catch up with you. And the older you are, if you don't get enough sleep, if you don't eat healthy, if you don't get enough exercise, if you continue to put bad substances into your body, it is going to show more and more likely. So what I would say is really focus on trying to re-energize yourself, get enough sleep, start to eat healthier, make sure you are not putting bad substances into your body, get enough exercise, okay? Make sure you're at a healthy weight. Once you're doing these things, you will automatically start to feel more energized. You will have more energy and you will be more confident within yourself. Physical attraction is so important in a connection. You need to increase your physical attraction towards not just your partner, but future potential partners, and more importantly, for yourself. Your self-esteem, your self-worth. You want to feel good on the inside and the outside. You want to look good on the inside and the outside, okay? So, re-energize your body and your mindset by behaving in positive ways and grow as a person. Become a version 2.0 of yourself by living your life to the full, increasing your knowledge base, increasing your skill set, learning something new every day, becoming a better person today than you were yesterday, a better person tomorrow than you are currently today. You've got to grow, you've got to re-energize, because if and when you hear or see from your ex again, you want them to be wowed. Okay, maybe you have children together. Maybe you see your ex every single week. Well, how about they get to see the slow but sure transformation in you as a person, mind, body, and spirit? That is going to be attractive. Perhaps you don't see your ex anymore, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be focusing on this, because if and when they contact you, if and when you start to move forward in a way where you might even possibly meet up to have a date once more, you've got to look better than they remember. And as I said, long-term relationships often lead to stagnation. So I would really focus on the growth and re-energizing in this situation. Now look, as I said, this counts for everybody. If you was in a relationship for 3 months and broke up, I would still say this is important, but the longer your relationship, the older you will be, and the more likely it is that you won't get away with the bad behavior. Okay, if you're in your early 20s and you're putting substances into your body that you shouldn't, you may still get away with it on a physical level. You may still get away with it in how you live your life. You might be able to still get up on time, even if you're not getting much sleep, okay? But eventually, this will catch up with you. And if you're in a long-term relationship, you're more likely to be getting older, of course, as we all do every single day. And this is going to be something which is probably going to be more evident. Look at your old photos and then look in the mirror. Of course, we can't necessarily look how we did 20 years ago, but we can look pretty damn close, I believe, if we put in the work. So if you look in the mirror and you think, hey, I look completely different, I look washed out, I don't look healthy, start to re-energize, start to grow. You're going to be helping you for you, but the byproduct is it could potentially re-attract your ex if and when you connect on some level and they get to see you. But additionally, even if you don't get your ex, this will help you find somebody even better. And ultimately, if you don't get your ex back, you will at some stage want to connect with a new person, and you want to give yourself that best possible opportunity. Now, I'm dropping this podcast in the autumn, in the fall. We are approaching winter. And I always like the saying that summer bodies are made in winter. The hard work that people put in when the nights draw in, when there's less daytime, when there's less opportunity to wear the clothes maybe you would like to, because we're all wearing thick coats in most of the world when we get into the autumn and the winter period, this is when you can be really focusing on your health and fitness. You know, whether you're exercising at home, whether you're going to a gym, whatever you're doing, you can be ready for the summer. Think 6 months' time, you know, how you want to be looking and the big changes that you could make. This is the time to do this. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.